But it's not.
Good. Call the Halsey City Council meeting of June 9th, 2026 to order at 7 p.m. Brianna, please call the roll.
Okay, so Councilor Crop,
Here.
Councilor Boyer, Councilor Isom,
Here.
Councilor Lockenbrook,
Here.
Councilor Strauss, Councilor Miller,
Here.
Councilor LaCoste, also Mayor Lockenbrook. Sorry.
Here.
One note, Councilor Strauss may be in attendance tonight, but arriving late, so we will take that in the minutes depending on if she's in.
Okay, please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. I want to thank each of you for your time to attend tonight. Any guests who are physically present need to fill out a meeting sign-in sheet near the door. And again, we're running a hybrid meeting tonight, so those who want to champion work, we can do so. To cut down on background noise and feedback, remote attendees should mute themselves while not speaking. Staff members and guests on the agenda will need to unmute themselves to give reports to council. And audience members may unmute themselves to speak during the public hearings and citizen comments. So the first item on the agenda is public hearing. Because council has a lot of business to get through tonight, each citizen will be able to speak during the public hearing, must limit their testimony to 3 minutes. I'm also capping the total time for the public hearings at 30 minutes. If you're attending remotely and want to testify, please raise your hand in Zoom or state in the comments section in Zoom that you wish to testify. In order to ensure that as much time as possible is reserved for citizens to speak, council will not answer questions or engage with those providing testimony. If you go over 3 minutes, you'll be asked to stop speaking. Testimony received will be used by council when coming to decisions on a proposal. Attendance or audience demonstrations, personal attacks, or other disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. We, the council, are here to listen to testimony and come to the best possible decision. First item on the agenda is public hearing for proposed uses of the state shared revenue. Public hearing on proposed use of the state shared revenues for the city of Halsey is called to order at 7:03 p.m. The purpose of this hearing is to receive public testimony regarding the proposed uses for state shared revenues in the city of Halsey for the 2026-2027 fiscal year. And the 2026-2027 shared revenues are estimated at $10,000. The proposed use is to transfer $4,000 to the Halsey City Park Fund to use for park maintenance, $3,500 to the library for improvements, events, and fundraising activities and equipment, and to retain $2,500 in the general fund for repairs to the EV station and Public Works tablet replacement. Does any member of the City Council wish to announce any actual or potential conflict of interest as defined by Oregon Revised Statute Section 244? Hearing none. Does any member of the audience wish to make any challenge to any council member's impartiality or ability to participate in this decision? Anything online? Okay. Hearing none, have we received any written correspondence on this matter?
Not on this matter.
Okay. We're now at the point in the hearing where council will hear any testimony. If you want to comment on the proposed use of the state shared revenue, please start by stating your name. Going once. Going twice. Moving on. Does any member of council have any questions regarding clarification of testimony, which there have not been any to this point? Hearing none, moving on. If there are no further questions, I'll close the public hearing on the proposed use of the state shared revenue. The hearing is closed at 7:04. Yeah.
Can you read a little faster next time?
Hey, you know what? I'm working on it.
Okay.
New to the whole reading thing.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is public hearing for approved budget for the 2026-2027 fiscal year for the city of Halsey. Public hearing on the matter of the 2026-2027 budget for the city of Halsey is called to order at, call it 7:05 on June 10th. Does any member of the city council wish to announce any actual or potential conflict of interest as defined by Oregon Revised Statute Section 244? Hearing none, we're going to move on. Does any member of the audience wish to make any challenge to a council member's impartiality or ability to participate in this decision? You do, Ann?
I have a comment on raising of our water and.
Okay, we're not there yet.
Okay.
So hearing none, have we received written correspondence on this matter?
Not on this matter.
We're now at the point of the hearing where the council will hear any testimony. If you want to comment on the 2026-2027 fiscal year budget, please start by stating your name. Okay, Ann? Okay, did you want to comment on the 26-27 fiscal budget?
Yes.
Okay,
Sam,
yes, please.
I've been doing some research and I feel that the raising of the water and sewer rates is not appropriate.
That's not this part yet. That's going to be coming
That's
up.
not budget, isn't it?
If you want to do it, that's fine, but that's going to be a separate item.
We also have a public hearing for utility rates.
Correct.
But you're welcome to speak to this at this time as well, sorry.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
But now or then, either way. Okay.
I have a cousin that lives in Sierra Vista, Arizona. That's out in the desert. And her water rate is a little over $11 a month.
Mhm.
The sewer rate is $18.42 per month, billed every 2 months.
Mhm.
Shed water rates are around $6 per month, and the sewer rate is very low also. Brownsville does not have rates anywhere near ours. Neither does Sweet Home. I think our rates are way too high. It's almost half of what I got from Social Security as a raise. And that makes it really difficult for people like me. And I'm not the only one in town that has low income. It's great to be able to have a nice big reserve, but it needs to be curtailed to enable people to be able to pay the bills
Mhm.
and stay on top of it. I need this to be addressed also.
Absolutely. It will be.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay, so if there's no other, does any member of council have any questions regarding the clarification of chair testimony at this point? Okay. If there's no further questions, I'll close the public meeting on 2026-2027 fiscal year budget at 7:08. Next item on the agenda is public hearing for proposed utility rate increases for 2026-2027. Public hearing on this matter of the proposed utility rate increases for 2026-2027 is called to order at 7:09. Does any member of the city council wish to announce any actual or potential conflict of interest as defined by Oregon Revised Statute Section 244? Okay, hearing none. Does any member of the audience wish to make any challenge to any council member's impartiality or ability to participate in this decision? No? Have we received any written correspondence on this matter?
We have on this matter, very brief.
Okay.
Received a public comment for public hearing from a Michael Wells, received May 31st, and stated, I will not be able to attend the meeting, but would like to express my support for rate increases.
Okay. We're now at the point in the hearing where council will hear testimony. Thank you, someone. No other testimony? Do you want to comment on the 2026-2027 proposed utility rate increases? Please start by stating your name.
John Johnson.
Okay.
Unlike Ann, I did not do a bunch of research with our neighboring communities and so on and so forth. I know they all have their rate increases in water and sewer as well that they're dealing with. But I just know, similar to Ann, that we do have a community here that is has a lot of older folks in it that have limited budgets, and raising that, doing the increase could, we already know a couple of people here in town that have a hard time paying their water and sewer bills as it is. And I understand that by state, you probably do have to raise those rates every so often. But because of grant issues or whatnot, I would like to state that I am opposed to any rate increases, just like tax increases. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Anyone else? Does any member of council have any questions regarding clarification of testimony at this point? Hearing none. There's no other questions. I'll close the public hearing on the proposed utility rate increase for 2026-27 at 7:11. So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. To approve the consent agenda, which contains minutes from the council meeting on May 12th, 2026, and the financial report for April 26th and May 2026. Council can vote on all items together or move an item for separate consideration. Any questions, comments? Now I'd entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey approve the business items in the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is agenda adjustments. Do we have any agenda adjustments for this evening?
There is actually a small adjustment, and that is to page 16, is 667. Or is that this? Sorry, I'm not the right one. And all it is that on this page, I always list a cancel action in like that header. And it's actually no action here. It lists it as a motion. This is, and it's for utility rates. Yes, page 67 shows an action of motion, and it is a no action because adoption of rates must be done by resolution, and that's later in the agenda.
Right.
So this is the opportunity for discussion. Actual voting happens later.
Okay. The next on the agenda is delegations. And Sheriff's Office is not here, so we'll circle back to that. Next item on the agenda is citizen comments. This is time for interested citizens and anyone in the audience to address the council any item of concern that were not already discussed in a public hearing. Please limit your comments to about 3 minutes. Please start by introducing yourself and stating your address. Anybody online? You have a written comment?
I have written comment.
Okay.
Okay, so we have written comment from Mr. Zane Goodwin. First comment was submitted May 21st. The topic is H Street Comprehensive Plan and City Goals. I am submitting this comment regarding the H Street project in the Coons House located at 791 West 4th Street. /HR-7. Policy Development Code 36138 specifically identifies HR7 as 791 West 4th Street, Coons House. The comprehensive plan also gives the planning commission a duty to review and comment on proposed land actions and programs that may impact resources on the Halsey Registry of Historical Resources or Historic Resources. The H Street project appears to affect or run directly adjacent to the Coons House property. The current resident raised concerns, but there does not appear to have been a planning commission review or comment under the historic resource process. I submitted a records request asking whether the city considered HTC 36130, the Coons House HR7 listing, or the comprehensive plan historic resource process for H Street. The city responded that there are no responsive records showing that process was considered applied or determined not to apply. This is a concern. The city is now relying on HDC 49120, which addresses permits to alter or demolish historic resources, but that does not fully answer the separate comprehensive plan language about land actions and programs that may impact historic resources. I'm asking council to pause further action on H Street until this process issue is addressed publicly. If the city believes the comprehensive plan historic resource process does not apply to the street project affecting or adjacent to listed historic resources, that interpretation should be stated clearly in public. Residents are expected to follow city code and process. The city should be held to the same standard when its own projects affect residents, historic resources, and public rights of way. Second comment also from Mr. Zane Goodwin.
That one you can withdraw.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
The second one you can withdraw.
I can withdraw?
You withdraw it?
Okay.
If possible, I still would like to make a comment on that because it is actually a concern. You raised a potential ethical issue. I need to address that. That's fine. Okay. So if you don't mind, Graham, I'm going to address that one. Asking the city to address public confidence problem before this application moves forward. This is in regards to a planning commission action. It's not about financial conflicts, it's about perception. City council appoints a planning commission. City council also appointed Derek Voyer to his council seat, meaning he received no votes from Halsey residents for that position. Now, an appointed counselor is specifically named in the packet going before a council appointed planning commission. It looks like buddy system problem. Even if no one did anything wrong, the structure creates an appearance issue. Council members have relationships, access, and influence that ordinary citizens do not have. Conversations happen. People know each other. Public cannot see what's discussed before the meeting or whether anyone felt indirect pressure. This is why the city needs to make the record clear. Before action is taken, asking staff to state Councilor Voyer's exact role in this application, whether the city reviewed the appearance or influence issue. Public trust depends on more than technical legality. It depends on whether the process looks fair from the outside. Right now, this does not. So in this planning commission, Mr. Voyer, Councilor Voyer, was listed as a tenant. He was not an owner. He was not on council at that time. So he does not have any sway at all in that. He's not getting any funds, anything like that. As for him being appointed to council, under Chapter 3 in our charter, if there's a vacant seat and it's not an election year, council can ask for applications and be appointed. The provision that during the next election, they have to run if they want to remain in that seat. So Councilor Voyer has done nothing wrong. He just was listed as a historical resident or a tenant of that location. So I want to make sure that it's on the record. Anytime there's an issue where a council member has a community member that thinks there's an issue, I want to make sure it's addressed. So, any comment, questions, concerns? Anybody? Okay. Did you want to comment more on 8th Street or no?
I have a report.
Okay. Which brings us to reports to council. Next on the agenda, the city administrator's report, please.
Okay, I will try to buzz through this because it is a long one. So we're going to start with infrastructure project updates. Inflow and infiltration repairs, our city attorney reviewed our bid documents and provided notes. This is the final requirement prior to sending those documents to DEQ approval. I know I keep saying DEQ approval, I swear it's the. These notes have been incorporated into the documents and now submitted to DEQ. This is the final step. Once we have a DEQ approval, that is the sort of last checkbox before we are permitted to go forward with procuring contractors for that work. Because it is a DEQ partially forgivable loan, so in essence, it's a partial grant. They have a lot of control over like each step of the process and us going through the procurement and then pre-approving our procurement materials before we can take the next step. Next is Halsey Well 25 Phase 2. We have 2 grants for this project. And as you know, I keep talking about this environmental review that is a huge pain. On record. So I met with one of our grant administrators, the Thriving Communities Grant, and that is for the $350,000. We just did a project update, and I also at that time, because now we have for sure got the other grant, also through the EPA. Both of these are through the EPA, but different grants, different buckets of money, all EPA. So I, at that time, had the opportunity to notify them about the fact that we actually have these separate buckets of money from essentially the same agency. And we discussed how we might weave our current environmental review requirement efforts into the other funding bucket in hopes of not duplicating effort there. Because essentially the NEPA, the National EPA Environmental Review requirements are the same. The EPA requires it. We have to do it for both grants. Hopefully we don't have to do it twice. So we talked about strategies for that, and the Thriving Community Grant provides more ongoing like technical assistance to get through that process. So I've met with them and discussed those things. I've received initial contact from our other EPA grant administrator, and I am now slotted to watch a bunch of webinars. So that's this.
Woohoo.
I know, we are very grateful to have grant money.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
It's really, really great for our community. It saves our citizens a lot of money to have grant money. There are a lot of steps for federal money. So that's what we are working on. Okay, so well, these grants are going to cover not just the well, but they're going to allow for the upgrades to our treatment plant, which are so necessary at this point. They're going to cover a good portion of that. As you all know, this doesn't cover the entire cost of the project. These grants have match requirements, and so we will still be required to come up with at least $140,000. So far on phase 1 of the grant or of the project, we spent about $170,000. So it is a $1.5 million project, and we got over $1 million of it funded through grants, which is fantastic. We are still working our way through cobbling together enough money for our part. While environmental review process is slow, we are still on track for our proposed completion date, which is June of 2027. H Street project. So the H Street paving project initial design is complete. We have had some questions regarding storm system components that were not part of the original concept design, and so we want to ensure that the project provides proper drainage while also staying in budget and on scope. We've requested updated project cost estimates to include design changes, and we actually need to have a survey crew come back on site to get a better idea of the storm infrastructure to update those designs. So, to inform the formal design. So this is where I would like to, we did get that public comment, and I would like to address that here, and that is to say, regarding the broader project-related concerns, we did receive an inquiry about considerations to impacts of the local historic property, and on par with what we heard in public comment today. We did have several discussions with the inquiring party, and I did attempt to explain why this process was not relevant, but I think that I can even provide more context now and hopefully a better explanation. And so, while those things are still true, primarily the city concerns itself with architectural changes and demolition, which is that specifically it's in Chapter 4 of the Development Code. The other thing to note is that the city road project is not actually considered a land action, like by definition. And that is because the land action takes place at the adoption of the comprehensive plan. Like the state many years ago, long before any of us were here, said every city needs to do a comprehensive plan, and as part of that comprehensive plan, you must have a transportation component. And that transportation component says these are the roads in town. And so because the road in town is being used as a road, there's no new action. It's already been defined. So it's not a new action. It doesn't actually qualify as a land action, and thus is not subject to this land action review for impacts. So that has been affirmed by both our planning consultant and our legal counsel. And while our intent is never to be dismissive of citizen concerns, in fact, the fact that we have a couple of property owners that are upset about the project, I think is typical of any kind of road improvement project. Like, it's challenging for neighboring property owners sometimes when things change.
Right.
And while the city has all of its reasons why the project was selected have not changed, I think that we can also, be clear that we are empathetic that there's some people that are having a hard time with that change. The fact is that we have received input in opposition of this project from less than 1% of our community. The city has so far invested about $8,000 into the H2 project. Most of this cost is reimbursable through our grants. However, if the city were to abandon the project, those funds would be lost. There are also some broader implications to foregoing a grant that has already been awarded, including potential loss of consideration for this grant in the future. Again, the criteria that informed initial selection for this project has not changed to date. We're always, we have our project webpage. We're always welcoming of people that have questions, and we want to be informative about the project as it moves forward. If council feels like it needs to go on a future agenda, then I just need you to let me know. But yeah, at this time, we have invested money. Design is moving forward.
Okay.
Our projects. I completed the installation of the flower bed under the Halsey sign in the park in preparation for a council work party on June 6th. Council members came together to help with planting flowers in the newly installed flower bed under the sign and spreading bark under the swings and the old play structure. Public Works was a big help gathering and delivering all the supplies needed to complete these projects. This month, we are also wrapping up our final touches on the ongoing park project. Over the next 2 weeks, we will see the completion of the basketball court improvements. That includes the installation of a net zero basketball hoop at the half court. It's shorter for smaller kids, and also repainting of the court with multi-use lines for pickleball and basketball. We will also be installing there's exercise equipment that will go in kind of along the east side of the park near the playgrounds ish. And that will wrap it up. These projects are planned during our limited summer season and must be balanced with many other priorities our public works crew manages need today. Despite the timeline, it has resulted in a really beautiful result. Thanks to our Parks and Library Committee, our rear intern who championed the project, and to our OPRD grant allowing us to afford the improvements. Our public works crew made this happen. All these people made this happen. All right, SMAC, Small Municipal Advocacy Coalition. SMAC has been working to strengthen our efforts, bringing together cities who are partnering in advocacy at a state level to speak to the interests of small and rural communities. I met with the leadership team last month to discuss our strategy and organize our work. The meeting schedules for our local officials interested in further advocacy efforts, and meeting schedules for local officials. These meetings are focused on training officials and empowering them to be vocal advocates to our lawmakers, rulemakers, and other agency representatives. Our most recent meeting focused on training on developing a local policy advisory board within each jurisdiction. We will continue to meet more regularly in preparation for the 2027 legislative season. Economic development. The city has begun implementing the Halsey Highlight series, which highlights our local businesses. The series highlights a local business every month with an article in our newsletter, on Facebook, and our business economic development webpage. So far, we have highlighted 4 local businesses. To further these efforts, me and our intern, Ellie, spent time recently going around to our local businesses and providing them with brochures on policy economic development, our Rural Economic Alliance, or REAL efforts, and inviting them to participate in the Highlight series. Other initiatives related to our economic development work are primarily related to Main Street beautification and developing a list of upcoming training, grant, and other events and resources for local entrepreneurs. Local wetlands inventory. I need water. It's like a while to take this.
Take a breath.
You gotta breathe too.
I know. Local wetlands inventory. The city has completed a draft LWI, local wetland inventory report, and received initial comments from the Division of State Lands, or DSL. As part of our final review, we want to present the report in a community forum to provide an opportunity for public feedback and questions. We have a town hall for the LWI scheduled later this month on June 24th at City Hall at 6 p.m. We will have our wetland consultant, a representative from DSL, and our planning consultant present to help with questions from the community. At this time, we are still developing the materials and structure of that event, but our hopes is that it will be relatively casual and offer opportunity for people to come look at materials, perhaps a short presentation and a panel discussion for questions and input on that process before it goes to council for review and potential adoption. Safe routes to school. The city was selected to receive the Safe Routes to School planning grant, which I think is news to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we
Yay.
received the planning grant for Safe Routes to School. We have a commitment from Central and School District to partner on this project, and we will work with Tim Walter from their team. The school offers access to student data and communication infrastructure needed to get input from students and families about their school-related transportation habits and needs. The intent of this grant is to gather input from those various sources to inform a formal plan for improving safe transit education and identifying infrastructure projects for proposed pedestrian safety. This project will take approximately 9 months to a year to complete. Yeah, so the outcome is like a full report. It doesn't actually result in like grants for construction changes, but the benefit of this is that we get assigned a professional consultant to work with us in the school on this, and the intent is to analyze our infrastructure with that professionals, eye. And then also a lot of embedded surveys, outreach, trying to get that community input to develop this plan. And I think that it will just be really, really great to have that opportunity, have that long process for a plan that we hopefully get a lot of feedback on. Upcoming events, so many in summer. The city surplus sale is here at City Hall from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. this Friday. Citywide garage sale is June 13th, all through town. June 10th, we have a planning commission hearing here at City Hall, so tomorrow night. June 18th is the Parks and Library Committee, and that is held at the library at 5:30. June 24th is our Wetlands Inventory Town Hall meeting, again here at City Hall at 6 p.m. June 30th, another planning commission hearing at 6 p.m. here at City Hall. And then July 3rd, city operations is closed in observance of 4th of July. Any questions?
Deep breath.
Deep breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, it was a big report.
Yeah.
But yes, any questions, any discussion?
Anybody?
I have one last thing, but we'll do it maybe after Frambies.
Sure.
I have a proposed scheduled date change for July
Okay.
that I need council to approve before the end of the week.
Since Sergeant Cram just arrived, we'll go get him in here before you do public works and such.
Yeah, thanks for fitting me in. I don't have to talk about it as usual because there's nothing much that goes on in public. It's great. The two arrests were for violating the release agreement and driving with a suspended license. A release agreement is a little different than a restraining order. Restraining order is like granted by a judge, and then the release agreement is like you go to jail, and then in between your next court date, we say, hey, don't have contact with this person until court, and then they have contact with that court. So as part of getting released from jail, you're saying like I'm going to obey these rules. So explain that. Something I've been talking about at city councils the last month is e-bikes and segways, pit bikes, scooters, anything like electric, right? So it's a terrible comparison, but everyone's heard the saying like we have a war on drugs.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We're never going to win the war on drugs. right now, law enforcement wise, we'll never win the war on electric scooters or bikes.
It's all over Facebook.
There's too many out there. It's all over. All ages are driving them from like 3 to 70. It's great. Where we stand as the sheriff's office is we're only going to respond to those if they're causing a hazard or they're destroying property. If they're just simply riding them up and down the street, if the deputy sees it, we're going to have a conversation with them and just have a chat. But if you call us and say, hey, there's an 8-year-old riding a scooter, you like articulate some more. We don't have the resources to go to all those because there's 2,300 square miles of kids riding scooters and e-bikes. And I mean, they're at the campgrounds, right? We see them on Highway 99. They're in all of our cities. Way too hard to keep up with our staffing levels. So conversations have been working, talking with kids at school. And then of course, if they're like driving them where they shouldn't be and destroying property, for sure we're having a chat about that. Or if they're driving recklessly, super fast, running stop signs, almost causing crashes, we're absolutely addressing that. But if they're just simply riding them on the side of the road, we're not going to do a traffic stop on an 8-year-old. And if you call us and say, hey, there's a 12-year-old riding a scooter, that's not necessarily going to cause us to respond. There's going to be some more articulation there. So I say that because there's so many issues, like statewide, they've actually cracked down on the use of e-bikes and scooters and pit bikes and stuff. So in summary, even the little electric scooters, they only go like 10 miles an hour and you can buy them at like Walmart or Costco for $100. You have to be 16 years old in the state of Oregon to drive those. So most people you see drive them are not under 16. In Halsey has a bunch. Harrisburg has more, Brownsville's got a bunch, Albany, Lebanon, Sweet Home, Scioto, Mill City, Millersburg, like we're inundated with the, hey, my neighbor's Aiden rides a scooter. Yes, he does. If they're, doing cookies and flower beds or doing jumps, stuff like that, like then we'll go out there and address it, right? Over the last couple of months, we've had DUIs on electric bikes. Those DUIs count as a motor vehicle in the state of Oregon. We've had electric bikes fail to stop at stop signs and run into vehicles, and the bike operator was at fault and intoxicated. And we've had a bicycle operator just simply fall off a bike and get injured, and he was intoxicated and arrested for DUI. So from small to big. And I say that from age-wise, and then the number of issues we're dealing with from my neighbor kid destroyed my flowers on a scooter to now we're arresting people for DUI on these e-bikes. We're also seeing just kids just get hurt, period, fast with no helmets or something like that. So yes, it's like a hot topic in all the communities. We're very well aware. But like I said, if the kid's just simply riding a bike, you don't need to call us. If we see it, we'll address it. But if you're doing something dangerous, destroying property or driving carelessly, then we'll go out and address it. We just don't have the manpower at the sheriff's office to be stopping every single person and every city, road, campground, stuff like that. Any questions about e-bikes or anything?
I have a question and just clarification. Are they supposed to be rode on the sidewalk or bike lane or in the street?
So
Or what's,
let's say you're over the age of 16, bike lane.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head Halsey's municipal code, but I doubt they would be allowed on a sidewalk.
okay,
Most cities don't allow even bicycles on sidewalks, like pedal bicycles.
Okay.
So yeah. But yeah, the state has cracked down. If you look at the state statutes about that, they have statutes from pedal bikes that are assisted by battery operation or electric operation, segways, pit bikes, off-road dirt bikes, ATVs, the scooters. The state's really starting to crack down too to this issue, not just in our communities, but everybody's starting to see it.
Lawnmowers on the road.
That's just Halsey. That's just Halsey.
Yeah.
Halsey.
Yeah, I had a conversation with two lawnmower riders. Man, maybe 2 months ago,
I think it was
3 months ago, something like that.
a couple months ago.
The nicest kids in the world. And like the parents also super respectful to us, responsible, and it was just kind of a small town thing.
Yeah.
But when we're like, hey, this has to stop, like great people, actually really great teenagers. Like nothing but nice things to say about them and how that interaction went. I kind of got a kick out of it, but I haven't seen those same kids doing that again. I think that issue's been resolved. But and actually, even parent-wise, with not just Halsey, but county-wide, anytime we've had conversations like, hey, your kid's driving the scooter super, super fast, and FYI, here's what you can be held accountable for, and here's some laws and ordinances about it. All the talks have been good. So we haven't got a lot of pushback on it, but we're kind of more doing the education versus enforcement thing. It's too hard, and we would need like a full-time electric bicycle enforcement person to deal with it. Yeah.
Like I said, I know on Facebook, on all surrounding towns and stuff, it's blowing up.
Yeah.
I mean, it is comical, not comical.
Yeah, the damages and stuff like that, like I said, we'll respond to. But
Right.
if it's just simply someone riding it, you're not going to get a response or a timely response from us for just something like that. Like you got to articulate something more immediate.
But it's not legal to ride them?
No, if you're under the age of 16, like 0, not at all.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought did I send a flow chart?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I can send it again to refresh it, but there's a flow chart that the state has made that shows the vehicle or the mode of transportation. And then there's like categories of what you can and can't do with that specific vehicle. It'll tell you like the age, the safety requirements, it'll say the state statute that it's documented under. And so that's kind of an easy lookup. But in summary, if you're under the age of 16, you can't ride anything that's battery or electric operated in the state of Oregon.
Yeah, it's a table, it's a little bit large. I looked at it and I was like, how do we reshare this? Having this information here would be great. I was trying to picture like on social media how it would translate because it was kind of vague. But you know,
Send it to me and I could try to mix them up.
Okay.
Summarize it.
She's really good at that.
Any other questions, comments? Well, there's like, it's battery powered like trucks and stuff like that. If you're driving, the kids are, remote control driving those things on a sidewalk in an area.
Like just remote control cars.
Like ones that like sit in and
Power wheels.
Yeah.
so like battery powered. I don't know how that would fit into.
Yeah. So if I were to pull up the flow chart, I don't think there'd be a category for that.
Okay, but it's like electric vehicle.
Yeah. I don't think there'd be a category for that.
Yeah.
And me personally, when my kids were younger, they had them all too.
They go like 5 miles an hour. So.
Yeah. we're talking about like scooters that are going like 10 to. I stopped a kid in Harrisburg the other day. He's doing 45 miles an hour on a scooter.
Oh my gosh.
That is super. And that's like if you crash, you die.
Yeah.
That's super dangerous speed. And we will 100% address that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not going to nitpick. I mean, I think the way that we enforce laws in Lynn County is reasonable and with discretion. So.
And that's the one thing I liked about Lynn County is we historically have been more, we're going to educate people before we start just going to citing people. And I think that's important for a community. Anyone else? Thank you much.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Be
Thank
safe.
you.
Yeah, sorry for being late.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah.
Part of the deal.
So if we can quickly circle back to
Sure.
the proposed date, I am going on vacation in July. I'm planning to attend 6th through the 11th, probably be gone. That is when I normally prep our materials. I would like to propose that we meet on the third Tuesday rather than the second in the month of July, which is the 21st.
Okay.
Any opposed?
So meet the 21st instead of the 14th.
Yes.
Yes.
And to me, I can't guarantee there will be an agenda.
Yeah.
Need a quick meeting.
Yeah.
Hmm. Sounds great.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah,
For me.
works for me.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll be on the lookout. I'll be in Harvard.
Yeah, I said I'm good.
It won't.
Okay. So next is the Public Works Department. Is there any specific comment that he has, or no, just read it? Any questions, comments about the Public Works Department report? The next one is the library report. Any questions, comments, concerns? No? Okay.
Well, which is not in this report for the library, but I imagine might come forward in the next library committee meeting, is that once summer reading program starts, that's a lot of work
Right.
for a librarian. Historically, we have recessed like monthly library committee meetings in like July and August. So that will be confirmed after our next meeting.
I say the wildflowers are coming up really
Yeah, they
nice
are.
out there, like
Yeah.
really full in there, really, really full. Yeah, it looks good though.
So the next item is my report. This has been a busy month. I had the LOC Small Cities meeting in Harrisburg. It's different than SMAC. It's a League of Oregon Cities version. Short session recap, the wins and losses in session, and then start looking at prepping and goals for the long session coming up. Attended the Portland State University Principles and Practices for Local Government Leaders conference. That was actually pretty good on communication with communities and each other and other government, sharing resources, et cetera. I sit on the League of Oregon Cities General Government Policy Committee, and we had a meeting and we discussed legislation regarding cities, public meeting law, specific getting clarity from the state on serial meetings and optimization of the public meeting law. It's very, very verbose and easily misunderstood. We started talking about prevailing wage modernization. The last time that the rate for prevailing wage was well over 40 years ago. And so it's negatively impacting communities, especially small communities. So we're looking at legislation for that. Then the Administrative Procedures Act, which you think public meeting law is verbose, take a gander at that. And so there's looking at government agency reform on that, paring it down to more understandable for laymen. Then started discussing legislation for home rule and unfunded mandates, which both of those are the bane to small communities. And sort of looking at what we can do to reinforce home rule and to minimize unfunded mandates. Then we had the SMAC meeting in Harrisburg, and that is our regional small cities group. And then we had the LCSO quarterly meeting in Millersburg, getting updates for the sheriff's department for a contract. And then I participated in the Portland Rose Festival parade. Myself and 47 other mayors walked the parade. After doing a bunch of bark work that morning,
You walked it?
that was 6.3 miles.
I thought you were on a float.
Oh no. And then prior to that, we met at the Oregon Historical Society for Mayor's Gathering and met with legislators, state and federal. Made some good interactions there, and have a couple of meetings coming up with some other legislators and mayors. And I also wanted to give a special thank you to council members and city staff for the Public Works Party. Flowers and the bark, good times are had. And if you haven't had a chance to go go by, take a look at it.
It was nice. We had the citizens step
Yeah,
up
we
too.
did.
A lady
Yeah.
was just walking around, she's like,
Yeah.
hey, can I help you guys?
Yeah.
We had plenty of
That,
stuff.
we like seeing that.
Yeah, it was great.
Any questions, comments? You guys are easy tonight. So the next item is old business, and that's specifically the sidewalk municipal code. We're asked to provide guidance to city staff regarding next steps for the sidewalk code discussion. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so the code has come up in a few recent meetings. At our last meeting, we received public comment requesting that the city consider maybe consider multiple funding sources, consider our current code, which puts liability and repair on adjacent property owners. In the previous meeting, I want to say March or April, I apologize, I don't remember exactly which one. We kind of discussed our current enforcement around existing codes without creating any new codes, right?
Right.
Our current enforcement is that we are not heavy-handed in requiring repairs and replacement of sidewalks, but that we discussed the city embarking on inventory of what sidewalks we have and particularly condition of those sidewalks. And then also in our regular, not just weed and vegetation enforcement, maybe working on education of right-of-way maintenance and owner responsibility, and also, or adjacent property owner responsibility, and also increasing to some regard how much we require people to like trim back the bushes and stuff that are encroaching on sidewalks, but not necessarily those major repairs. So that's kind of where council's at right now.
Right.
In feedback from the community, we tabled it last time following that feedback, just to say, let's come back to it this month. If we are going to discuss this further, what I need from council is direction on the kind of information that you feel like would be important for future discussion so that I can actually develop it.
Well, I think the big thing is to proceed further with the inventory.
Okay.
Sidewalks, complete sidewalks, sidewalk parks, sidewalks in disrepair, old sidewalks that don't meet current standards, things like that. And then definitely we need to do a right-of-way education.
Yes.
That hasn't been done in a very, very long time.
Right.
And I think that's going to be important.
Existence of sidewalks, condition of.
Yeah.
So those are two different things. Do we want both of them? Like, that was some feedback that we did get was how many property owners have a decent sidewalk, so not just the condition of current sidewalks, but like sort of the presence of them at all.
Correct.
We want us to work on that information.
Yes.
Okay, existence of sidewalks, period. Condition of sidewalks.
Yes.
Right.
What I can say is that obviously I'm going to work on these reports, but doing a sidewalk inventory is probably a several months project. It's not going to be.
Oh,
Right,
sure.
absolutely,
With
yeah.
other
Yeah.
things, but it's something,
Yeah.
With Public Works, we will embark on. Summer's a good time.
Yeah.
To walk around and look at sidewalks and take pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally reasonable. It's going to take a bit of time and effort.
Proceed forth with our education on right way. And we still are in the place where we are not wanting to be aggressive in.
Oh, correct.
No,
Correct.
Correct.
no, I think that was misunderstood.
I think historically,
I mean, it's still.
we've been pretty.
It does, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's.
Well,
So our sidewalk code is, and it's, what I will say also is that I've done some initial research on like how prevalent this type of code is in cities. And so what we do is recommended best practice through our liability insurance agency. They say this is what cities should do. And that is, the sidewalk says adjacent property owners are responsible for maintenance and repair of sidewalks along their property. It also offsets liability. So like that failure to maintain and repair, if your sidewalks go bad and somebody breaks a leg and says, I think that somebody should be liable, the city is not. We defer that liability to the responsibility to adjacent property owners. This is, again, it's not something that we made up. It's been that way for a long time. It's very, very common in other cities. That doesn't mean that we can't evaluate what we do here, right?
Correct.
So that is what our existing code is. For a long time, the city's policy has been not to have an aggressive enforcement approach around sidewalk that is in disrepair. But at a recent meeting, March or April, we did have a discussion about, how do we make sure that what we have doesn't continue to deteriorate, and what does enforcement look like around that? Should we be making sure that adjacent property owners, when they're cleaning up, they're doing their own mowing, if they have rose bushes that are totally climbing over the sidewalk and encroaching, should we be expecting them to prune? The code does suggest it, or does the code says it, doesn't suggest it. It says that you should be doing those things, but we're not really enforcing it at this time. Or other things that we're not there yet, because we acknowledge not everybody maybe has a pressure washer. But sometimes when you have a situation where like moss from vegetation from a property is growing up, it's dropping stuff on the ground, leaves that never get raked, things like that, the moss will grow over and eventually like it will cease to be a sidewalk. And so maybe working on an education campaign to say, hey, if you get out there and you sweep, hose off, pressure wash if you have it available to you before it turns to dirt, and this stays in good repair longer. Because again, like the moss will eat away at it. It will cease to be a sidewalk. So really, I feel like where council's at right now is maybe doing a better job of educating folks on their responsibilities and doing some enforcement around with our vegetation ordinance about pruning back away from the sidewalks, but not leaning into those like duties to repair major repair. So as a part of that, it sounds like we need to proceed with our inventory. I can certainly also do some case studies of how other communities do this kind of code and what that looks like for them, budget and execution.
Right.
So we can sort of evaluate where we land within that.
Sure. I think those are good first steps.
So existence, so we are surveying.
Right.
Existing condition.
Right.
We're going to proceed with our education and our soft enforcement, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
Right.
And we are going to do a case study of how other cities are handling sidewalk maintenance, sidewalk codes, responsibilities, property owners, et cetera.
I think all that, once that's done, that'll give us a better idea of how we're going to proceed further.
Okay.
In the future, yeah.
Be first steps.
This one? Need to know what you guys want.
I would be agreed with that. I would just maybe add, as much as I would want Halsey to look nice and be safe and all of those things, one thing I kind of noticed is the sidewalks tend to sit pretty far back in.
Right.
And like, I never use a sidewalk unless I'm walking along 99. I just walk down the street.
Yeah.
I understand some people with children would maybe be a little different depending on what part of town.
These people
fuck here. Before we would do anything, yes, there's some of those things I would like to know. I guess I'm not jumping up and down to, hey, we need to go fix everything right now.
Right.
Yeah, we don't have the money to, also, to be clear.
Yeah.
Not at all.
But that shouldn't, the minute we pick up one tab for one individual, the minute the city picks up one tab, then we gotta fix them all.
Right.
So if the code is already there for the homeowner being responsible, then that's the way it has to be. The way it has been in every city that I've ever worked in across the country, like the state picked up the tab for the highway because all of that, they had to tear everything that was there. They had to move, dig stuff up and all. So that became all one lump sum. So it was their deal.
Right.
Therefore, that project is done. And that's what's going to happen on H Street. Same thing.
Right.
But that's because that's just the project. But then just to fix a piece of sidewalk for the city to pick up that tab, as soon as we pick up one, then we gotta pick them all.
I know, and again, like, we'll get to further in the weeds in this on a report, a full report and a case study. At least I've done some light research.
Right.
To be able to have this discussion. There are some cities who still have this kind of code, but they also do a bit of like more of a shared responsibility. And so how they achieve that is they actually also charge a fee. So all people have to pay a fee for sidewalks or city services or something to that regard. And they use that as a way to sort of create a grant for people to apply to like fund part of the cost if they're being asked to repair. So then everybody in the community is paying into it, even though maybe not everybody in the community has sidewalks in front of their house. And I'm not suggesting that's what we do. I'm just saying that there are other ways that people do it. And so maybe a part of this is evaluating our structure, other sample structures, determining if we like what we are doing now, determining if we see something else that we think would be a better fit. Again, the money's not there
Right.
otherwise. So
Right.
and we're talking about fees tonight. Who wants more fees? It's a tough
Right.
conversation, which is why we should
Sure.
do thoughtfully and with research.
Yeah.
If you guys think of anything else that you really think should go into this research, please let me know. Like I said, this can take me a few months to do
Oh, absolutely.
with other things. And I want to do a good job of taking the time to go around, and we'll have to develop criteria for conditions and things like that.
Sure.
And take pictures and develop probably a report, a plan of sorts about our sidewalks.
So we have consensus on that, those first steps?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think education is a big deal,
Yeah.
like detailed information too, about like,
We wanted to do a flyer about right of ways, you know,
Yes.
I think we have direct mailings for the budget, public notices.
mhm.
And I think that even though I would love for everybody to read our newsletter and to follow our website, that the direct mailings, I think it's physical, it's paper, hopefully
Right.
people see it. And that might be a really good way for us to get those kinds of education things out in a way that
Right.
hits more doorsteps.
I have started that. I'm working on it as I have.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit of a project.
Yeah.
It is just a flyer, but it's pretty information.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
We want it to be readable.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, move on to new business. The Everfund proposed utility rates increase.
Presentation.
I bet you do.
Okay. And then for anyone here, if you didn't see, there's actually, I printed out some, these are flyers, but attached to the flyers that are on like this by the sign sheets are
Yes, yes.
portions of our packet that include some of the graphs and things.
This one,
If that's of interest to you, yes, so.
did you guys get one?
People that grab and take them if you'd like. Okay. All right. Let me open this.
Oh. I have,
Go ahead, I yell.
well, here, have another one. Here, you want me to sign this one for you?
Please.
Okay. There you go.
Fine. Oh, thank you.
Sure. Just for you,
It would be cherished
I'm sure,
if you could share.
to the round. I have one here too.
Oh, yeah, you find it. Okay.
No, I took, we have an extra one over here.
Well, share.
I don't know. Whatever. You have one, I have one.
Yep.
We're all good.
Right.
You have a special one.
I do.
Not believe you guys had a walk. You said after doing bar and everything?
Back.
Well, at least you stayed up there, don't you?
Yep.
Good. Didn't I go with you?
Okay, Halsey utility rates. So a lot of this is kind of a summary of those things that are on the little flyers, and that is just a bit of a snapshot of why we're talking about utility rates and rate increases and projects that we are embarking upon in various phases of completion on with our utility systems. So Halsey, along with most cities, has very old infrastructure. Many of our water lines are 70+ years old. Our well 69 failed in 2022, and we are halfway through a well completion project, which again, I mentioned earlier, we've already spent $172,000 on in engineering, pre-design, and wastewater project costs that weren't already covered, that were not covered under grants. We also have 196, which is currently 30 years old, and we need to be proactive in thinking about how we're going to replace it in the next 20 years, so it's not a surprise multi-million-dollar project that we're scrambling to complete. Our water treatment plant is also obsolete, which fortunately, again, we've secured some grants, but have some matches that we need to come up with. So those things in such a small town really hit our reserves. They really do. So even when we're so fortunate to get grants, we still have to come up with the gap. And that is a stretch for such a small town with few users paying into the system. The lagoon system, also very old, installed in the 1960s, many lines, 70+ years old. Our lagoon system, the good thing about a lagoon system compared to other treatment type systems is that other treatment systems have higher annual operating costs. You're spending millions to operate them every year. You're getting rid of the sludge and the things every year. Lagoon systems are lower cost, low technology to operate year over year, but every 30, 40 years, 50, if you're lucky, depending on size, you have to dredge them, and it costs millions of dollars. Our lagoons have never been dredged, and they are nearing their functional capacity, and we have recommendations that they need to be dredged, need to be dredged, or we will not have capacity in our wastewater system within 5 years. Those projects at this time are estimated about $2.1 million. We do not have $2.1 million at all. So we are actively seeking grants for that money. However, if we are required to come up with a 20% match on $2.1 million, it's not, back in the napkin, I don't have that in front of me. It's not a little. So also we've completed a wastewater master plan, which was completed in 2025, which did identify over $7 million in projects. That does also encompass that lagoon project. Stormwater. Our average, tends to be a lower expense in terms of infrastructure to maintain, which is great. But our average annual stormwater revenue based with our stormwater fees is less than $45,000 a year. There is staff time that is spent on that fund, just doing all of the spraying ditches, clearing things out, repairing when things go wrong. Our stormwater master plan identified over $2 million in recommended improvements that was adopted in 2020. So we just checked for inflation. It's closer to $3 million now. I think it's pretty clear to see that the current rates are insufficient to support any major repairs. It's supporting that annual, maintenance, keeping it cleared, smaller repair projects, but there's just not funding there to do any of the major improvements that have been identified. Frankly, any of the rates that I've proposed also don't get us there, but just keeping up with the maintenance cost and inflation, that's where we're at. Financial viability. So we have 359 users paying into our system. That's like how many user accounts that we bill every month. And that's the tough part, is that, there's economy of scale. Sometimes bigger cities have bigger infrastructure and bigger costs associated with them. They can spread that cost a lot further. But because we're small, we spread it so thin, we're always trying to balance how do we save money for these projects without absolutely blowing people's bills out of the water. But we're asking a lot fewer people to try to pitch in on this. Rising operating costs hurt our ability to save for future capital projects, and we need to plan to sustainably save for grant match dollars, because we will never save enough to pay for a $2.1 million project before it's $6 million. Like the amount with 359 users paying into the system, we could not reasonably ask for enough to save that much money to actually pay for the project. What we're really trying to do is be in a place where we could address a failure of like a major generator or something without totally going under or going into debt, or come up with these matches when we're fortunate enough to get grants. So those reserves are really meant for those purposes. And we're trying to build up solid reserves to be able to address the many projects that we have slotted over the next 5 to 20 years. So we do rate comparisons as part of these proposals. We look to a number of cities. It makes me so mad you don't see the cities on here, and I just realized it. These are better listed in this, which, as I mentioned, those things that I printed for you guys, it shows them here. So Brownsville, Harrisburg, Scioto, Monroe, Adair Village, Halsey. This is an average rate comparison of total bill, and this is at our current rates and current rates in these other cities. So when you're comparing based off of average load bill being 4,000 gallons of water use and 5,000 gallons is being used in both buckets for sewer. So and high bill being about 8,000. I know that for some folks that have big families or that have big gardens, that their high bill in the summer is probably a lot more than 8,000. But we do actually have quite a few users that stay in this range throughout the year. You know, so you can see where Halsey compares to other communities in terms of overall bill. On par, pretty close with Monroe, but less than most. Next up we have, wrong way, just the water bill by comparison, and these remain the same. This is Brownsville, Harrisburg, Scioto, Monroe, Adair Village, Halsey. And you can see our water bill is higher than some of our neighbors, and quite a bit lower than others. A really good comp is Scioto. Scioto is like the same size of us. They also have a lagoon system. They have a similar water treatment system. They also have just under 1,000 people. So they're really kind of as apples to apples as you can get comparison, even though obviously every community is different. Which one is Scioto? Scioto is here.
The third.
Yeah.
Okay. So something else worth noting is that some of these cities, particularly Monroe and Brownsville, have higher fees, and those fees are associated with debt repayment on capital. So they're not just kind of putting it into their normal rate structure. They're instead capturing that in their fees. So some of these are kind of offset here by those fees in another place. However, they are still lower than us, so it's worth noting. I keep going the wrong way, I apologize. This is average sewer. This one has the names, that's fantastic. And so Halsey is kind of middle of the road there for average sewer, significantly less than a few, higher than Monroe, but less than the rest. And again, Scioto is a good comparison if I'm being, we're talking about size, infrastructure, et cetera.
Pretty close.
And then fees, this is what I was talking about, how we had a couple cities that showed kind of lower rates in some buckets. But you see it represented somewhere else. And so like you don't see as many big jumps in the total bill. But you see some of these, that's like just the places where we see those rates be higher or lower based off of community need or how they set up their rate structure. So Brownsville, they're doing a capital repayment plan, they're showing it in fees instead of absorbing it into rates. Monroe has a similar structure. The rest of these folks, most of this is fees related to stormwater. For those that don't have those like debt repayment representative fees. And then the other thing that I wanted to show is, if I could go the right way. So we had a water rate study done in 2022. This was really in response to Beverly well fail, and we had to analyze like where are we at in order to replace infrastructure that's desperately needed and like plan for the future and make our reserves sound and financially viable. And those had two different rate structures that they recommended over a 5-year plan. What I will say is this is year 5. Here's another table as well, year 5, 2026. So what it's recommending at year 5 and one of the rate structures is $60 and another was $62. Proposed rates this year are at the bottom of the structure from 2022. That was intentional on council's part. Council made that decision mindfully in 2022. They discussed it and they said, in 2022, I'm trying to remember what the actual rate was in 2022, but it was going to be like you know, a $6 or $8 jump just to
Right.
be here.
It would have been,
And so
yeah.
council said, that's gonna be really hard.
Yeah.
And we're just coming out of the pandemic and stuff and all the things that were going on, and they decided that they were going to adopt those high recommendations of that.
Right.
So we've been kind of inching towards the bottom of a 5-year plan ever since. So at this time, what's being recommended on the water side is about $10 less at the base rate than what was recommended to us 5 years ago.
Right.
And then this is to show, again, based off of what's being proposed to council, what that actually looks like as a monthly impact to consumers based off of different usage. So this does encompass, you know, also storm and some other things, but, you know, based on some tier use structure. Storm is a flat thing, so the tier structure is what you would see the changes being for water and sewer. This is an average bill now for folks and what it would look like should those rates be adopted and what that might look like in the changed average bill. So we're looking at a change for people with anywhere between $4.40 and $5.22. You know, if they're all the way up to 16,000 gallons. Again, I have a big garden. In August, I am using 20,000 gallons of water. So I understand that this is maybe not the top end for everybody, but this is still a high usage and we definitely don't see this all year.
Right.
And we definitely don't see this with all users. I like to spend too much money on tomatoes. So
Ours is about the same.
is just sort of to show where we line up, what it would mean if we would adopt it, kind of why. In our packets as well, which is not represented on the slides, you see, you know, the outline of, you see the full rates plan from 2022 for the water side. You see the summary projects that were outlined in our stormwater plan in 2020, and the summary of projects that were outlined in our wastewater plan. We also have the League of Oregon Cities does a survey, and they did a survey in 2025. That stuff is also in the packet, and it shows we have like quintiles. It's based off of population size, and so how Halsey stacks up to those who responded to that survey regionally, and based off of size across the state, and in terms of comparison rates within Oregon. And for us, I'm going to find that page. If I can. What I can say is for less, I'm looking for the percentage. There it is. So, wastewater service rates, Halsey's current rate, or Halsey's proposed rate for the 20 base, which is, and this is based on the 5,000 gallons of usage. That's how they did their survey. Right now, Halsey's proposed rates would be 25% less than the quintile statewide, like sized communities statewide, and 58% less than the regional average. Regional also includes all different size cities, so I think quintile is probably more appropriate. And then for the water service size, we're much closer. Halsey's proposed rate would be 464 for 5,000 gallons use, which is 6% less than the state, than the quintile average, and 11% less than the regional average. So this is all just for council's consideration. Council can choose to adopt as recommended. Again, later on in a resolution, choose to adopt none of it.
Right.
You guys can also discuss the proposed rates and say, we'd actually like to see this number instead of this number here, here, and here, and adopt it at like an amended version. Now it is, the floor is yours.
Okay. So well, there's no action currently, but when it goes to resolutions, there will be.
This is a good time to discuss it.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear from everybody.
Personally, I have no issues with the increase.
The necessary evil, I guess you would say.
I mean, I myself don't want to increase my own bills.
Right.
But I understand the necessities behind it and having those funds to take care of bigger issues.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. It's like taxes, they go up without us even being able to say anything. But unfortunately, some of this has been kicked down the road and then now we're trying to catch up.
Right.
And yeah, we're struggling even to meet what we have to match. So it's like, to me, it's like, yeah, necessary evil, I think. I don't like it, but I'm not sure how else we're supposed to pay the bills.
Exactly. The thing that when I became mayor, I noticed that, like you said, care and maintenance has been kicked down the road for 40, 50 years, and the bare minimum has been done. Trying to worry about people's pocketbook, which is good and admirable, but at some point it comes to fruition where we got to pay the piper now doing that. And unfortunately, it's now. So I'm not a fan of needlessly increasing bills, which I don't think we are. But we don't want to have a situation where we have another major water leak and can't fix it. So, or have another well go down and then we're doing what other communities are doing, trucking and water, which would be even more expensive than just repairing in the first place. So
I did have a question. Did you ask Brownsville, so they have the extra fees?
Yeah.
Is that the hope of being able to drop that, or what's their plan on that?
So the way that their extra fees are, and they do a better job of explaining it on the website. Holy crap, I don't want to. I don't want to say that, but they have debt. So it was like instead of a bond or whatever the case may be, they took on debt to do a major project. And so as a part of that, like if we have to take on debt, we actually will, to even like meet a match or something, the lending agency will say you have to raise rates this much because that's when we get our PS back. And so they took on debt to complete a project years ago, and the repayment, they have it represented in a fee for the payment, the amount every person has to pay in order to pay that debt back. And once that debt is paid back, that fee would be removed.
So Lebanon had some sort of, I talked to Mayor Ken up there, and he had installed some sort of fee that rather than, and it short circuited made so Salem didn't get any money, everything was here. I'm not exactly sure how that worked.
a local,
City services fee.
yeah,
They did the city services fee. That was, my understanding, that was less related to water and sewer infrastructure, and that was to fund their public safety, because they have a police department, a fire department and stuff, and those are also very expensive to run. And so they implemented a city services fee in order to continue, probably a budget shortfall to continue to run those programs.
Right. I guess my opinion on this whole thing is there really isn't too many things more important than having water, right? So I'm don't like paying taxes any more than Mexico, probably less. But in this kind of a scenario, I would be in favor.
I think that some other things, and it's a bummer, it's nobody enjoys this part of it. But shockingly, Hawaii has a high median household income. It doesn't, I feel like we meet people every day that are not experiencing a high median household income, and that is a challenge because the median household income is used as a baseline for projects through the feds. So USDA rural development grants, we're basically ineligible for grants because of our median household income. They base affordability on that. And they say, no, but you can have a loan because we believe based off of this data point that you don't need. It also means that often the low interest grants that are eligible through Biz Oregon or Business Oregon, which is usually routed through DEQ or something. Some of our I&I improvement is a partially forgivable loan. Mm-hmm. So part of it is a grant, and that is kind of one of those buckets of money. They tend to be very low interest rates, really great terms for cities. And we are not eligible for like fully forgivable grants, and it's because of our median household income.
So does that
That's-
include businesses?
Does it include businesses? They have business services. Yes. It's called Business Oregon. They do business services. Part of what they do also is they help cities. They basically, there's like state revolving loan funds. And so when the legislature says, we're going to put this much money into these many infrastructures, and sometimes the feds say, we're going to put this much money into states to determine who should get this money, like block grants. And Biz Oregon kind of helps line people up with the right agency and do something. And so we have the median household income issue. And then the other thing that we have to always consider is that, you know, if we continue to do this, I think it's important for us to figure out what our 5-year plan is.
Right.
And do like a year-long plan with education and opportunities for public input. And then, you know, and then that should really come with like this is an annual thing. We need to talk about this more. What does the next 5 years look like? And that should come with a lot of town halls, public input. We've already reached out to RCAC about doing a sewer rate study, you know, to inform, you know, where should we be long term. But the reality is if we don't do these things that are tough, other cities have critical failures, have to take on emergency loans.
Sure.
And there are cities who have implemented like everybody's rates are going up $10 a month over the next 6 months. Every single month because we actually have to address this critical failure. And so some of what we're doing is planning for not putting our citizens in that position. Or that's what I'm proposing, I guess.
No, I agree with everybody, but I know the whole reason I got on council was whatever, 7-8 years ago, talking about stormwater drainage, that they wanted to raise the rates and everything. And my first instinct was, no way, we can't afford it. We don't need it. Nothing. We have a ditch in front of our house and it's never been maintained, except for by us. But, and then when you sit up here and you see all the behind the scenes stuff, you read through all the paperwork, you get the presentations, you realize that it's not just a number on paper and it's not something that we just pull out of the air and be like, hey, let's raise everybody's rates because we want more in our bank account. It's not
staying in the bank account.
No, it's not. And that's what, I mean, it is easy to assume that though.
Sure.
Unless you know when you get involved in some of this stuff. So
Absolutely.
so I know that's the whole reason I got involved with this. And I don't want to raise rates by any means. We're like a single out income household, so I can't afford it anymore.
It's tough. And like I said, when I became mayor, looking at the history of Halsey, they weren't looking at what could potentially go wrong in the future.
Mm-hmm. No, they weren't.
And we're here. So
Unfortunately.
things are starting to break.
Yeah.
And at a rather frightening frequently rate. So. We ready to move on to ordinance and resolutions?
Please.
Yes?
Yeah.
Then let's do that. Like council's permission to read ordinances and resolutions by title only.
Yes.
Super quiet tonight. Ordinance 2025-450, an ordinance of the city of Halsey providing for the vacation of 230-foot long sections of West 8th Street between West 6th Street, right of the West 7th Street right of way between blocks 1 and 2, DM Cooper addition to the town of Halsey. Do you want to do an issue statement or?
This is a no action first reading.
Sure. The next item on the agenda is resolution 2026-759. A resolution of the city of Halsey adopting a budget for the 2026-2027 fiscal year, imposing a tax of 5.6014 per $1,000 and $52,925 for bonded debt.
Correction.
That's a typo. It's 758, not 7.
So mine says 758.
Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. choke there. Is there any member of the council who needs to declare an actual or potential conflict of interest? Hearing none, are there any questions or comments? No? Fingers. Go entertain a motion then.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey adopt resolution 2026-758, a resolution adopting the budget for the 2026-2027 fiscal year and imposing the tax rate of 5.6014 per 1,000 and 52,925 for bonded debt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're at 2026-759. Resolution for the city of Halsey certifying the eligibility of the city of Halsey to receive state shared revenues. Any questions or comments, discussion? None? Then I'd entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey adopt resolution 2026-759, a resolution certifying the eligibility of the city of Halsey to receive state shared revenues.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is resolution 2026-760, a resolution of the city of Halsey declaring the city's election to receive state shared revenues. Any questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey adopt resolution 2026-760, a resolution declaring the city of Halsey's election to receive state shared revenues.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is resolution 2026-757, a resolution updating city hall operating fees in connection with land use planning requests, water services, sewer services, facility reservation rates, and repealing resolution 2025-751. Do you have a summary you want to present?
This is, the only thing that's on here is the proposed facility rate changes. There's nothing. This is it.
Okay.
Proposed.
Any questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I recommend that the governing body of the city of Halsey adopt resolution 2026-757, a resolution updating city hall operating fees in connection with land use request, water services, sewer services, facilities reservation rates, and repealing resolution 2025-751.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is resolution 2026-761, resolution of the city of Halsey to receive and appropriate the sewer inspection camera grant from CIS Oregon. Are there any questions, comments, discussion?
What, can you clarify, what is this? This is for the,
We received a $5,000 grant for a inspection camera. It's for sewer and stormwater infrastructure. We had already budgeted to buy a camera, but because of this grant, we were able to get a way better camera.
yeah,
So we were going to get kind of the cheapest thing we could find. And so we had some money set aside. So we did use some of our funds for this camera, and this was a grant through our liability agency, CIS, for the $5,000 to get it.
this is,
Used it several times.
I'd say this is so they can go in and look through the pipes and find where leaks and problems are, correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
but
okay.
it's unexpected revenue, and also as a result of getting an increase in that revenue, we spent more out of that fund
Mhm.
than what was allocated, and so we need to adopt a resolution, so we are covering our.
Got it. Okay.
I entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the City of Halsey adopt resolution 2026-761. A resolution of the City of Halsey to appropriate the grant funds received from CIS.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And last but not least, resolution 2026-762. A resolution of the City of Halsey to appropriate the donations to the Halsey Public Library from the Book It 5K fundraiser. Resolution appropriated $2,275 received in donations to the library Book It 5K fundraiser for supporting library programs, events to allocate for the 25-26 years. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. yeah. Just want to make sure I wasn't reading another typo.
Planning summer reading.
Yeah. So I would entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the City of Halsey adopt resolution 2026-762, a resolution of the City of Halsey to appropriate the donations to the Halsey Public Library.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And with that, I'm going to adjourn at 8:36.